a few weeks ago when we were coaching with a group of guys, this common thread between all three of them was procrastination. And with procrastination, oftentimes comes beating ourselves up.
Yep.
But we got to acknowledge something. Life makes it easier to have bad habits than good habits.
That's a great point. It really does. There's a lot of things out there that encourage you to kind of do the wrong thing.
Absolutely. Like when you're in Wal-Mart and you're going to check out, they don't have protein shakes and workout plans right beside that. They have candy.
That's right.
They have snacks and energy drinks.
Yep.
They know. They, that quick hit of pleasure or whatever, that's what they're going to sell. So that's what they give you.
Yeah.
And that's how most of life works. Like
It is.
having good habits is going uphill usually. Having bad habits is like going downhill. It's easier, but you end up on a lower spot than you want to be.
Well, and there's always someone over there trying to make money off your bad habits.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like bars love it when you're alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, heck yes, come on back.
Come on in,
Come on
drink
back. You
more.
can have as many as you want. You
Yep.
shouldn't stop. It's fine. You don't need to pay off your car note.
Yeah,
You got it right here. So we got this world where you're kind of trying to swim upstream when you're getting into good habits. So what we're going into today is overcoming procrastination part 2. These are some tips to enable you to settle into good habits, conquer that procrastination, and move in the direction towards a life you can be proud of.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where our goal is to help you get out of survival mode and into living a life that you can be proud of. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
And he's my dad. And today we are talking about the all-important theme of overcoming procrastination.
Yep.
So last week, this is part 2 of overcoming procrastination. Make sure to listen to last week if you haven't, because this is going to continue to build off of those principles. So this week, we're diving into more tips. A lot of this has to do with how you are as a person, kind of really dialing into what it means to get past procrastination and living a good life. We're encouraging you to do this. Don't try to do all of the things we're going to say to you at the same time. This is very much like big picture. These are a lot of big steps. It takes a lot of adjustment. So pick one of these elements and implement it into your life. That's something that we do in our coaching.
Yeah.
We really try to help guys narrow down into one area of focus. So even when it comes to growth, you got to pick one area of growth. So don't try and do all of them.
Yeah, and that's important because momentum is built that one step at a time. And sometimes when you're trying to do all the steps, and I get it, you want to do it with excellence, you want to do things right.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just impossible to change everything at once.
Dude, I fall into that category so often.
Oh yeah. I want to do this. I want to change that. I want to have 15 goals, not just 2. And so what you want to do is slow it down, pick one, get that done. Then you have momentum for the others. So with this, are you going to fix everything overnight? No. But when you begin building one area of your life up, then it helps you build the other areas of your life all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that I found helpful for myself when it comes to overcoming my own sense of procrastination, and it's the first tip we want to share with you guys, building off of your strengths.
Yeah.
The truth is, you do want to keep your weaknesses from hurting you, and we focus on that a lot. You know, everybody's talking about where they don't measure up. But truthfully, where you're really going to make an impact in other people's lives is with your strengths.
Yeah.
And what are you going to not actively avoid?
Yeah.
Something you're good at and like.
Exactly. Well, it's like if you're going down a river, you can paddle downstream or upstream. If you're paddling upstream, it's a lot of work. It's hard.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times when you're trying to be gifted in an area that you're just not that good at, you're always going to be paddling upstream. But if you turn the boat around and say, okay, I'm pretty good at this area, let me work on that. That's paddling downstream. You get faster, you feel better. And that's the thing about strengths. You don't ignore the weaknesses. If the boat has a hole in it, yes, you have to fix the boat.
Right.
But you want to be paddling in a direction that fits you. So figure out, what am I good at, and try to focus on those areas and not what you're not good at all the time.
Right. Well, let's say you're procrastinating, or we'll use me as an example. Let's say I really want to pick up a good hobby.
Yeah.
Let's say all I do is watch anime, which I may do, and play video games, which I also may do. And I'm like, you know what? I want to have a creative outlet to be able to relax, unwind a little bit, but I want it to be productive. You know what I'm not going to choose? Painting.
Yeah.
Y'all, if you could see my attempts, I went through this phase in like 8th or 9th grade where I tried to draw things.
Yeah.
And if I could show you those pictures, you'd look at me and say, buddy, I love you, but you have no future when it comes to visual art. And it's the truth. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
However, Emily, great at it. Emily is a gifted painter. She's got the patience for it. She's got the attention to detail. She likes to get it right. She cares about the visual side of things.
Yeah.
So it would be dumb for me to be like, oh, I'm just procrastinating my painting habit because I'm picking the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So one way to overcome that is to pick something that you are good at, not something you're supposed to be good at.
Yeah, and a lot of men, we get into that trap where we say, well, I'm a man, I'm supposed to like this, I'm supposed to do this. And a lot of us are very similar in that we like a lot of the same things. It's just the way men are. But it's not exactly the same as every other man. So you want to say, okay, what am I good at? Like if my neighbor's really into his lawn, but I'm not, well, then maybe you want to get someone to cut your lawn so you don't have to, and you can focus on something that you're better at than doing your lawn. And hey, if you can't afford that right now, you just got to suck it up and do it. But you don't have to think, oh, I've got to work my yard like he does, because it's just not your thing. So find those things that are your thing, work on building that up. And that's going to be an amazing thing when you see that, oh, I have energy for this. I'm excited by this. And you're not drugged down by it all the time.
Yeah, well, you've got a good point with the lawn example. Sometimes you don't have an option and you have to do stuff that sucks.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I don't want to do this. I'm going to have to suck it up. And that's typically when we think about procrastination.
Yeah.
However, we want you to zoom out a little bit and observe, like, sometimes you may be trying to get yourself to do things you don't even need to do. You're like, oh, man, I really want to pick up this carpentry habit. And I think that'd be so cool. I want to build a table, but also I'm not good at it and I don't care about it. But, my friend gave me a tool and why wouldn't I use it? Because you don't like it.
Yeah.
You're putting this weird expectation on yourself
That's
that like, oh, this is something I need to do. And a lot of that stuff we really actually don't need to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to get you to. We want you to make sure you're running in the right race. If you're a tennis player, we don't want you to be playing football.
Yeah. Well, it's like Michael Jordan. We all know him as a basketball player, but he had that time in his career where he left basketball to go play baseball and still played a very high level. Never made it to the pros, but I think played AA, maybe even AAA. But so he was very good, but nobody remembers his baseball career except as a little blip in his basketball career because he was great at basketball, one of the best of all times. That's what we remember. And that's what people are going to remember us for, what we're naturally good at. And when we put effort behind what we're good at, that's when we become great at something. And that's, what people get paid for. Sports athletes get paid to be great at one thing. CEOs get paid to do those things. So you want to think about, what am I good at? And really bring some attention to that.
Absolutely. I think, well, I heard a quote, Steve Jobs, I believe, said that what you say no to is as important as what you say yes to.
Yes.
And so when it comes to this game of procrastination, we got to make sure we're not only saying yes to the right things, we got to make sure we're saying no to the wrong things.
Yeah.
The things that either don't really matter, or other people just randomly threw that expectation on us, or we saw it on social media and decided we should do it and didn't realize it's a 10,000 hour time commitment. There's a lot of things in this category that we're putting off that really we just don't need to be doing at all.
Yeah, and it may be the wrong season.
No, that's true.
There may be something you're interested in, but it's just not the right season for you to work on it. If you have small children and you're trying to build your career and do things like that, it's not really a good time to pick up a ton of extra hobbies because you may not have the time for them. But as your children get older, you might have some more time. You can do it then. So understand that just because you don't do it now doesn't mean you won't. It just may not be the right season to work on that unique strength.
Yeah. And you could even have a list of things that you would like to do one day. The someday maybe list, as David Allen calls it.
That's good.
And instead of saying, well, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it, throw it on the list. And whenever you have a lot of time, you can look over the list and pick something. So that's a really good thought, though.
Yeah.
The seasonality thing, I think a lot of times we forget.
Yeah.
Now, what we're not saying is never try to grow.
Yeah.
Like you may, if you're 400 pounds
Yeah.
and you're like, well, I'm just not really a big exercise guy. I'm not really a big eating right guy. I like to eat what I like to eat. You're going to have to get over that because we don't want you to die early.
Yeah.
So somebody said it like this. It was an interview of I think it was a life coach. He said, never worship your uniqueness at the expense of your growth. So you can pursue things that aren't necessarily your thing. That is possible. We're not saying that that's impossible. We're just saying that what you're really going to make an impact on, what you're really like, if you can put a medium amount of effort towards something you're good at and like, and something you're not good at and dislike, and you will make significantly more headway in the thing that you're good at and the thing you enjoy. We don't want you to forget that.
Yeah. And what you want to do is understand that there are things you're going to do that you may never be great at, but you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it too. Like for me, I enjoy doing triathlons. I don't do a ton of them. I probably do 1 or 2 a year, but it gives me an excuse to work out. I'm slow. I'm never planning to finish, in the top 3 of the whole race or anything like that.
But he has before.
Well, in my age group. And that's okay. I like that. But I don't do it. I don't do it to get accolades. I do it because it's something that I'm challenging myself with. And that's what you want to do. Have those things in your life. Like if you play golf, like John Maxwell is an avid golfer, but he's known as a leadership coach. No one pays him to play golf. He plays golf because he enjoys it. But they pay him to be a leadership coach. Henry Cloud loves golf too. I just found this out recently. But no one pays him to play golf. They pay him to be a consultant. They pay him to help them with their marriage and their life. And he's a great author. So what we want to do is find those things that maybe we enjoy. I'll never be great at it, but it brings me pleasure. And that can help you also build your strength because it's a way for you to kind of relax and get rest, so then you can go back to the area you're really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one option. Maybe there's a lot of things in your life that just you don't really need to do, or that you're not really good at, or it's not your thing. We want you to have the freedom to let those go. The second element, and this is a very practical one, that the one that we just did was like this big macro decision. Now we're getting to a micro decision, which is building a routine. You can read the book Atomic Habits. There's 1,000 books out there on habits. Even Craig Rochelle, a mega church pastor, wrote a book on habits. So everyone's talking about habits right now, but it's because it's true. A good, well-developed routine is an on-ramp to being productive. A good, well-developed routine is an on-ramp to being productive. What do we mean by that? I'm trying to think of a good example in my life. Okay, here's one. A lot of you guys maybe are in this category of, man, I can never seem to read my Bible or pray. Every Christian, if you ask them where they want to grow, that's probably what they're going to say. What I have discovered is very helpful for me is a routine. I'll go to a specific place because I work at the church. I have this certain route I drive when I pray. I have this certain place that I pray. I play a certain kind of music when I pray. I have like certain things that I do. And because I have this little on-ramp to it, it almost tells my brain like, okay, it's time to pray. And that's super helpful for me. It helps it like, it's tough when you have to make the decision. Am I going to pray today? When am I going to pray today? Where should I pray today? What can I do today? It's nice to not have to think about it. That's the beauty of a good routine.
Yeah, and you can do that with anything. If you have something that maybe you don't enjoy, like working on your budget, your finances is hard for you, well, then maybe your routine is once a week you go to your favorite coffee shop, get your favorite drink, and that's where you work on your budget.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it's a way to kind of reward yourself for doing something that really is not fun, but you're building a routine into that. You can also do it like with exercise.
Yeah.
Try to make the decision to exercise easy. Make it the night before. Have your clothes already set out. Or have a gym that you hit, that you pass by on the way home to say, I'm going to hit that. Or you hit on the way to work. There's things you can do to just make those things a part of your routine where you don't have to decide every time. You just make it happen. And those are things that I think as you do that, you don't even think about. It becomes second nature, and that's when consistency starts really building up.
I think you're right. We talk about ruts a lot. I think our society is like, oh man, I'm just stuck in a rut. A routine is like the positive version of a rut.
That's good. I like that.
A rut is something that takes you in a negative direction. But a routine is something you do, the same thing every day, but it takes you in a positive direction. That's a good way to think about it. You want to build an intentional rut.
Yeah.
Moving in a positive direction.
Yeah.
That's what we mean by a routine helping you with productivity.
Yeah, and it can also help you with when you have maybe a large job in front of you and you're like, okay, this is overwhelming. Well, if you break the job into small details, in other words, you're creating little routines. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do this first. That's all you're doing. You're building a little routine for each of the areas of a job. And by doing that, that big job becomes smaller because you're like, okay, the first step's to do this little thing. So I'm not going to sit here and think about the giant thing. Let me get the first thing done. Then I'm going to go to the second thing. And what you've done is you've taken that big project and you've made it a lot smaller for you. And then it feels a lot more doable.
Yeah. And then you also get the benefit of like little wins along the way. Like if your goal is sell your house or something like that, that's got a trillion little steps.
Yeah.
Well, let's break that down and like, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? Maybe I need to call a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the first thing I need to do? Maybe I need to look at the market for X, Y, Z. Okay, what's the first thing I need to do? Maybe I need to start repairing that thing, which would break down into smaller steps. You want to break it down so that you can be like, you don't want to only have checking off the checklist once you finished this giant project that takes months.
Yeah.
You want to be able to check off, all right, I did this, I did this, I did this. We guys like that feeling.
Yeah, we do.
We like feeling like we're making progress.
Yeah.
We love the feeling of momentum. Like we're killing it. And breaking it down into little steps enables you to get that feeling consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really brings our third area up. What you want to do when you are trying to build up past procrastination is don't forget to build celebration into what you do. If you get something done, a lot of us just, okay, that's done. Let me move on to the next thing. But we forget to celebrate. We forget to say, hey, good job. Hey, I've earned this. And what we want to do is understand that celebration helps us really understand that I did good. And that's not some weird, like Mr. Rogers thing of you're so special. But it's okay to feel special. It's okay to feel like, hey, I got that project done. I'm going to celebrate. Because if you don't do it intentionally, a lot of times our body, our minds will do it unintentionally. And that's where a lot of guys get into bad habits and doing things that aren't good for them because they're really finding a way to celebrate that's unhealthy. So pick the way that's healthy, a thing that's good, and build that into the routine. And you'll be like, okay, I'm going to celebrate by doing this or that.
Yeah. I think the first time I noticed how unbalanced we are when it comes to that was in college.
Yeah.
Me and some friends in this group project had spent probably a couple months, like 6 weeks, just cranking on this like presentation.
Yeah.
And we worked, we got together, we did stuff after hours, all this kind of stuff. And then we did the presentation. And the moment we left, we started talking about the future assignments that we had.
Yeah.
And it just struck me in that moment. I was like, we took, I don't know how many hours to work on this, stressing over this, crafting this. We presented it and we just moved on within like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's that's kind of wrong. That's kind of bogus.
It is.
Like, you know, if you tell your kid to do something and they slave at it for months and they finally get it done and you're like, all right, here's the next thing.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty bogus.
It would be.
But we
You'd
do
be
that
mad.
to ourselves
We
all
do.
the time. That's
Yeah.
why building celebration is so important.
Yeah, and one way you can do that is to look at your calendar. If you have a big project due or a big event happening, then look at your calendar and see if you can plan after that. Okay, how am I going to celebrate this? It could be I'm going to take a couple days off. It could be I'm going to take the whole team out to eat. It could be, you know, something. We're going to go have a fun day at Topgolf, whatever. What you want to do is plan that. Like we used to do an event, it was our state camp for young people and children all over. And so we would do that. It would take sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks of our lives to do. And when that got over, we usually had an open week after that. We didn't plan much. We a lot of times just hung out in our pajamas and watched movies and just did very little as a way of celebrating. We would eat out. We would do different things because we had worked hard for the 4 weeks. And so that made it to where, okay, this is our celebration time. And I think that made it, even when you're going through the hard times, okay, celebration's coming. We're going to be able to feel good about this. And you kind of process what you got done when you do that. And so we're saying, look at your calendar and put celebration in there, or it'll be easy to move on.
Yeah. And I think this is also where having people in your corner, having a community is huge. They can celebrate with you.
Yeah.
When you do something good, you want to tell that story.
Yeah.
You should have somebody to be able to tell who's going to be
That's
pumped
good.
for you.
Yeah, that's good.
I think a very practical example in our life with this business is each other.
Yeah, we
Like
do.
whenever we do like little things, you know, we make the call that we didn't want to make, or we make the sale that we didn't want to have to do, or like we maybe cranked out some podcasts when we were all we wanted to do was sit there. You know, we can hype each other up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that helps so much. Like if I was doing this thing by myself, I'd probably be done by now.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm excited because we're spurring each other on.
Yeah.
And we want you to be able to experience that. So find those people that you can celebrate with, that you can help push each other, not just to be better, but celebrate once you cross that line of getting better.
Yeah,
That's huge.
it is.
Along the same line, building teams is that final area we really wanted to encourage you in.
Yeah.
It does have to do with celebration, but it really does have to do with pushing each other forward.
It does.
When it comes to overcoming procrastination, it's the most difficult when it's just you. The easiest commitment to break is one that you've made to yourself.
Yeah, when you're by yourself, it's easy to say, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Or, oh, well, this came up. And you're kind of making excuses. But when you have that other person and you know, okay, I got to answer for that, it's a little easier for you to go, okay, I need to get it done. I need to get it done because that person expects me to get it done.
Exactly.
And that's not a bad thing at times. Plus, when you have a team around you, you get people who maybe are better at things than you are.
Which is awesome.
It is.
And
It is.
huge.
And when you have people who are good at things that you aren't good at, they can be part of the team because they can bring different thoughts. Like they can think of things you don't think of. Like, hey, we're going to do this. And they go, well, how is this, and this going to happen? Those are good questions.
Yeah.
And you don't want to downplay those. You want to encourage those questions because that's going to make a better product in the end of whatever you're trying to do. And that's what teams do because one, it helps you hold accountable, but two, you get the strength of other people who come into the team for you.
Yeah. I think it's also very, well, I guess this is what I would encourage you guys to do. Get motivated people around you.
That's good.
Because
Yes.
you can surround yourself with a bunch of lazy slobs who give
Yeah.
you an excuse to procrastinate.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're saying to do.
No.
You want to surround yourself with people that are, like you said, better than you and getting better.
Yeah.
You want people around you to be getting better. Like a funny example of this would be like the gym. One of the best benefits of being in a public gym, although sometimes it's really annoying when you have to share workout equipment.
It is.
But you get to see other people just getting it.
Yeah.
Like we have this guy, he is like Rambo almost. Like the ab wheel.
Yeah.
He's doing the ab wheel and making it look easy. And then he's doing all these ab things after it. And he's sprinting on the treadmill and he's lifting like 4 times what I could lift.
Yeah.
And he's in probably his 40s. And so like when I see him, I'm like, all right, it's
Goal.
possible.
Yeah.
I can do
that.
it.
Yeah.
You know, I have a bright future ahead of me if I can do that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
even though we've had a conversation like twice. Just him being there and just going for himself is inspiring me to do the same for myself.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in your life. When you have other people who are actively trying to get better and contribute more and grow, it inspires you.
Yeah, it's funny because I have workout stuff in my garage, but I was also part of a gym for the last few years. And just going to the gym, you kind of push yourself a little more than you do at home by yourself. You just do because other people are around. So you're like, okay, let me try to do 10 more pounds. You know, let me try to do this or that. And so that's the whole thing. When you get around motivated people, whether in the same business as you, or even if they're not in the same business, if they're in a different business, but they're just excited about business and life and you get around them, that rubs off on you.
It does.
And it makes you feel good. So yeah, you want to surround yourself with motivated people. And I would say also find someone who can be an accountability partner for you. You know, someone who maybe has the same goal as you, but maybe also has the same struggles. And then you two can kind of help each other out. You can encourage each other. You can speak life into each other. Because I know that helps us all.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not, a lot of times we only think accountability has to be with like some horrific flaw.
That's true.
And it can be.
Yeah.
But it can also be the little stuff. It can also be like, bro, I wait a full 6 weeks to cut my grass.
Yeah.
And by the time I do, I have to pay someone else to do it, you know, or I have to break out the weed eater and go an entire layer and then mow, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an area where you need to stop procrastinating.
Yeah.
Find somebody else and tell them like, hey, I want to do it every other week.
Yeah.
Well, now that is an external commitment, not just a commitment you've made up here.
Yeah.
That can be very helpful.
Yeah. And a lot of times those are things you have to purposely make happen.
It's very true.
You know, some people, I've heard people say the reason they work out is it provides them an accountability partner at the gym. If I don't show up and work out, I'm paying this person for nothing. And so that is
like a personal trainer.
Yeah, personal trainer.
Got
That's
you.
what I mean.
Got you.
So they pay someone to do their training, kind of whether they need it or not, because it makes them go to the gym. And that's a form of accountability. So those are things you can find creative ways to do it, but do it in a way that works for you to bring some accountability where it's not just you going, I'll do it tomorrow. Because you can just, I'll do it tomorrow for 3 months and that's nothing ever gets done.
Yeah. And going back to the gym illustration, having a study group or a work group is helpful. Like those people that go to the workout classes or people losing weight go to Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
Having a community of people is also a very helpful tool. So maybe rather than a one-on-one, that's going to be the best option for you. That's also a great path to take.
Yeah.
And then the final one is if none of these other things are as intense enough, if they're not intense enough for you, getting professional help is huge.
Yeah.
If procrastination is crippling you, it's impacting your life and you're unable to overcome it on your own or even really talk to people about it, seeking professional help, there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
It's a therapist or people like us, life coaches, anybody to help provide guidance. I heard somebody say one time, I believe it was Mark Cole, he said, everyone needs a guide and a tribe.
Yeah.
And so maybe before getting a tribe, maybe you need to seek a guide. And that is a good option. That's what our group coaching courses are for. That's why we do what we do. That's why therapists do what they do. They're not just after your money.
Yeah.
They want to help you. And that is a valid way to take a next step in overcoming your own procrastination.
Yeah, because really a therapist or a counselor, a lot of times what they are is just mental and emotional coaches. They're helping you get better in areas that maybe you're a little weak in. Like a physical therapist works on muscles you don't normally work. So that's all you think of it. It's not a long-term, life-term thing all the time. Maybe it's just for a season to help you overcome this one area so you can overcome in other areas of your life. So it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying everybody has to do it, but if you have something you just can't get over, maybe you need some help. Maybe you need to get someone who's a professional who can kind of look at it from an outside perspective and help you see it differently.
Absolutely. I guess like the challenge we want you to walk away with is pick doing one of these things that we recommended you to do in one area of your life.
Yeah.
It could be the yard work. It could be a relationship that's having trouble. It could be your health or your weight, whatever that area may be, wherever the most need is, something that you can be good at. Pick one of those areas and apply that principle, and grab some people to go along the journey with you. It can be your spouse. It can be a best friend. It can be a coach like us. Get people on the journey with you, and you can take huge steps to overcoming procrastination within the next week or two.
Yeah. And it starts with you just getting the ball rolling. Don't wait. Get some people, pick an area, and don't wait until you can do it perfect. No one's going to do anything perfect. Just start. Starting is the key, getting the people alongside of you. Then you can decide where you want to go, how you want to go, what things you're going to do. But get started. Pick an area, find some people, then get moving.
So apply these principles, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.